Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world, talking about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. All righty. Happy Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to come talk to you guys again tonight. Thank you for coming on. All right, I see Rick Rock here kicking it. PJ McCoat or McCoat, Mocate. PJ Mocate. I think I got it. So I have a action-packed weekend coming up. I'm talking action-packed. And I'm trying to get these videos cranked out so I give you guys content leading up to the draft. But man, we're close. This draft is what? 5 days away? Because Friday's pretty much over. So we're 5 days away. We're Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 days. That's it, man. We're here. We're ready. So interesting time, man. I'm going to put a video out off of a couple interviews that we've seen recently. I'm going to do a reaction video to those. Tomorrow morning, dropping at 9 a.m. is my review of Dane Brugler's The Beast mock draft for the Raiders. I love Dane Brugler's stuff, man. I love his Beast. It's really interactive. If you don't know what the Beast is, he basically does a real deep dive into the all the candidates or all the players that are draft eligible for that specific year. He does a really good job. He's one of the resources that I use quite a bit. And I really like to match my thoughts against what he does. He doesn't come out with it until like the week before the draft. So it's not like I can just rip off all this stuff. But it is a reference of mine to get some information and some more in-depth stuff and kind of compare how I see certain players to what he sees and stuff like that. So, yeah, Space Beast, you're finally here, baby. You're in the building. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about a few things, okay? We're going to talk about some questions leading into the draft about the Raiders and what they should do. We're going to talk about a little update on Hunter Renfrow. Also, 3 potential trades that can happen on draft day. There's a lot of speculation going on and it's all over the place, man. I'm talking about there's speculation of it's lying season, okay? But pretty much the day after the Super Bowl is over, up until like the first kickoff of the very first game, like the real game, that's all that is lying season. And the only thing you can believe is pen to paper. That's it. You can't believe anything else. Everything else is a freaking just a circle jerk. Yeah. Space Beast. I asked the Athletics beat reporters about Brady's involvement. They said they expect him to be in the – yeah, he's an owner. Why wouldn't he be in the war room? I don't expect him to have a ton of say, but that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today, interestingly enough. But I really do think that Brady's involvement is going to be a lot more on the input on the lead up to the draft, as far as like building your big board and your strategy and what to do in certain situations and things like that. I think that's going to be more so his involvement. The day of, you can't have 5 people, with decisions trying to talk. That's got to be your day for your GM to shine. Your GM's got to shine on draft day. So I really do think it's going to be the pulling the trigger is going to be Spy Tech. What's up, y'all? You know what? I wouldn't be so sure. I think it's definitely possible. I don't know that he really gave it away. I think, it's going to be a part of the video. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give away parts of the video that I'm going to have coming up. Cushmall 420, what's up, baby? How we doing? All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started, man. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It's an excellent way to support this channel. It's absolutely free to do, to subscribe. And it's the bare minimum you can do to support the channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video. All right, that's out of the way. Tell your Raider friends, man. I know you got friends that are Raider fans, family members, whatever. Tell them about Raiders versus the World, man. We're trying to get up here. We're trying to get this thing going. What I really want to do, like, honestly, guys, I really want to do live shows, but like on location. That's what I really want to do. And I can't do it unless I know like there's going to be some heads that are going to show up. I can go to I don't want to go to a Raider bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to go to a Raider bar where there's going to be a bunch of Raider fans, and that's fine, but I want there to be Raiders versus the World fans there. That's what I really want. So how do we get there? Well, you know, we get there by pumping it up, man. We got to get out there. I'm doing my part. I need you guys to do your part too. And I really appreciate you guys being on here tonight. Friday night. I know a lot of us here are just hanging out, hanging and banging. I remember one time I was out and I went live like on my other channel. I went live like from my phone and I was, it wasn't fun. Trust me. It didn't come out really. I had to delete it right away. But yeah, I want to do good stuff for you guys. I actually upgraded my I don't know if you guys noticed. I upgraded my background here. It's like super high def now. You actually see the cars driving by. All right, we're gonna get started. I think it's been enough time for us to come here and get settled in. You guys got your drinks, got your snacks ready, got your questions ready. We're gonna get to all that stuff. But first, I want to get to 10 burning questions. There's 10 questions I think that I really want to dive into some of this stuff here, because these are questions I think all of us have been asking, and it's stuff that I think, needs to be talked about. And we're just going to jump right into it, okay? First question. Will the Raiders stick with Geno Smith as their long-term quarterback or draft a quarterback early? Well, what's early? Does early necessarily mean first round? Is early first 2 days? I'm solidly of the opinion that your first 2-day picks should start on your team, unless they're a developmental quarterback. If you're picking a guy to be a backup in the first 2 days, you're wasting that pick. You need to get starters your first 2 days. And if that's early, then I think that it could be both. I think that the Raiders can stick with Geno long-term, depending on how he plays this season. With that, I think they could also pick a quarterback within the first 3 rounds, depending on who falls to them wherever they pick. I think it's completely possible, for sure, that both of these happen. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think because of one, you have to do the other, or the absence of one is going to help you do the other, for sure. The issue that we're looking at here, as far as what's going to happen during the draft, is this is a draft that's like unlike a lot that I've seen. Normally, the drafts are like the first 10 talents, right, are usually the elite talents in the draft class. Now, I say 10 is an arbitrary number. It can be 12, it can be 8, it could be 15, but normally it's 10. These first 10 guys are the best 10 players out there. And most of the time, the teams picking up high aren't going to just look a gift horse in the mouth and be like, oh, well, I'm not going to take him. I'm going to take another guy. They're going to take the best player they can, right? Because they're probably a pretty bad team if they're drafting that high. Then you get to like 11 to like 40-ish. Those guys are pretty interchangeable, depending on what your flavor is. Then 41 to like 100, and then from 100 on, it's a total crapshoot. But this year's draft, it's like first 10, 12-ish guys. Then it goes to like 80. Okay, it goes deep into the third round, where you can see a player potentially that can be a late first round pick go in the third round because there's such a big group of players that are kind of jumbled in together, where there is that small elite group and there's a bunch of really good ones. And we're going to see a lot of really good players fall to like the 5th, 6th, 7th round just because their position groups are so loaded. Interior offensive line, defensive line, running back. Huge. Also, I mean, for the actual position size group, like tight end H-back is even really deep. So we're going to see this is why this draft is a little bit more intriguing. Last year's draft was intriguing because of all the quarterbacks. This one's going to be because there's just going to be a really big group of players that are pretty evenly matched. So if you can get into the 2nd, 3rd round, if you can trade back into the 2nd or 3rd round, you're going to get yourself a really good pick because you can get a guy that was potentially, on a lot of teams' boards, a borderline 1st round pick. You get him in the 3rd round. And that's completely possible. Normally, that's not the case. Normally, you're going to get guys that are kind of pretty much, drafted somewhere around where they said they were going to be drafted as far as team slots and stuff go. But there's going to be some stuff all over the board here. There's going to be some people that are scratching their heads for sure. All righty. Next question. And these are really good questions. Some of these questions were some that I've seen asked of professionals, and some of them are just some that I've seen just kind of browsing questions and stuff like that. Next question. Will Pete Carroll push for a run-heavy offense with a 1st-round running back like Ashton Jeanty? Again, yes and no. Will Pete Carroll push for a run-heavy offense? Yes. I think that's part of the reason why he wanted to go to Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's offense is run-heavy anyway. I mean, you can see all the passing numbers and all that stuff, and all that stuff is great. But Chip Kelly had 2,000-yard rushers last season in college. So those are like, 14 games? He had 2,000-yard rushers in 14 games. Like, yeah, he wants to run the ball, okay? So I think that's kind of like an obvious. Will he push for a 1st-round running back like Ashton Jeanty? I think he would like to get Ashton Jeanty. I think that's a guy that's going to be high on his list. Given Pete Carroll's history, I think he's going to push more for an offensive or a defensive lineman. I was initially, before we got Geno Smith, I was scratching my head like, well, would I mind getting Shedeur Sanders at 6? I mean, he's better. He's probably a better option in the long term than like an Aidan O'Connell is. We don't know for sure because he hasn't played in the NFL yet, but I was okay with that. Then we got Geno Smith, and I'm like, okay, we don't need Shedeur. We need to make this team better, right? So then I was like, okay, well, Ashton Jeanty's, pretty intriguing. But how much is Alex Kappa going to upgrade this offensive line run blocking wise? We can say a lot of things about the players that we got last season. We were one of the worst running teams in the NFL. We need upgrades. So what is going to be the most bang for our buck? Where are we going to get the best at? Are we going to get the best getting an absolute stud at running back and then just getting an okay, pretty good offensive lineman? Or do we get a stud offensive lineman and a pretty damn good running back? Is that going to be better? Well, the offensive lineman is going to also help you in the pass game. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's for Spytek and Carroll and company to really discuss and hammer out. That's why I'm saying it's possible they can go either way. I personally would like to, if at all possible, we trade back a couple of spots and still get a stud offensive lineman. That would be amazing. Because then we can, even if it's a tackle, we can kick Glaze inside. That would definitely be an upgrade. That's something that that's why this draft is really intriguing, because we have so many needs on this team, man. So many needs. What are we saying here? The thing that we need to really focus on here is what's going to make this team better now and in the future. Because although I'm not opposed to drafting Ashton Jeanty now, because we can always get our line better in future, either in future rounds or future years, the bang for the buck now is going to probably be getting the offensive lineman first. Because I mean, your run game is two phases, right? It's yards before contact, that's the offensive line, and then there's yards after contact and or yards per carry, which is the running backs. Preferably you have really good both, where you have a pushback line, a knockback line, and the average yards after contact is high, and then you got a guy that can make guys miss and break tackles. So that equation leads to a good running game. Our issue last season was we weren't really good at either. PJ McCate. Genty does fix that, but he needs help to fix it. I understand that he is a stud. He had over 1,900 yards, Genty did last season after contact. That's ridiculous. He can't do that in the NFL consistently. These defenders are just too big, too strong, too fast to be able to do it like that. What upgrades have we made on our offensive line to be able to be a markedly better run blocking offensive line? I don't know if Alex Kappa is going to tip the scale that heavy. Would we necessarily, because look, one of my homies out there is Sanjeet. Sanjeet is my boy, dude. We freaking message all the time. We DM all the time. We have plans to go on each other's shows and stuff, but he says that it would be a waste to draft Genty with this offensive line. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say it would be a waste, but it would definitely be less than optimal. Okay. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards getting the offensive line and really push the offensive line. All right. Next question. Moving right along here. This is an interesting one. This is one that I was kind of thinking of when we first hired him. How will Chip Kelly's offensive system influence their draft strategy? Well, definitely the run game's got to get better because Chip Kelly wants to run the football. Also, you can unlock more of this offense if your quarterback is somewhat mobile. He doesn't have to necessarily be a running quarterback. He just has to be mobile. He has to be able to move. Like, for example, look at Cam Ward. Cam Ward is a mobile quarterback, but he's not a running quarterback. Hell, his average yards per carry in college it's lower than Shedeur Sanders. So he doesn't run around. He's almost like I liken him to like a Ben Roethlisberger, but just smaller in stature. Okay. He moves around, like he scrambles and stuff, but he doesn't scramble to run. He scrambles to throw the ball down the field. So you need to be more of a mobile quarterback to be able to run this system effectively, to be able to unlock every facet of this Chip Kelly offense. So potentially you would need some bigger blocking wide receivers. You need some smaller scat guys that are really good in space because he likes to run a lot of slips, a lot of screens, and things like that. Guys out of the backfield who can catch the ball. I think we got that with Mostert. And you need to have an offensive line that can move. So that's, I think, how it's going to influence the draft strategy offensively. Is it going to change it overall? I don't think so. But as far as like influencing the draft, yeah, I think it's definitely going to influence the draft on the guys they want to get offensively. Because look, they're not going to get guys that are bad players just because they can move. They're going to get good players, but I think if a player can move, whether if a guy's a little bit more stagnant, I think it's going to tip the scale in the favor of the guy that can move a little bit more. Seems to be a lot of chatter going on here. Let's see here. All right. Let's just keep cranking. These are some good questions. I like these questions because it really encapsulates a lot of the things that I think we've all been asking. Next question. This is question number 4. Will the Raiders, trade down from 6 to accumulate more draft capital? I don't know if they will, but I think it's definitely open. I think they're definitely open to doing so. Just because, like I said, there's so many good players in that 11 to even 75, 80 range. Those guys are really locked in there. So do you miss out on a great player and get 2 really, really good ones this year, or 3 or 4 even really, really good ones, depending on how many picks you can get back? Possibly, right? Possibly. Because we draft what? 37 and 76 or something like that. If we can get a couple more picks and then we got 5 picks in the top 80, pretty good. And maybe some capital next season, depending on how far we move. Now, I don't want to move too far back where we miss out on an elite player and just get a guy, But I mean, there's been a lot of talk. My mustache is getting big and it's messing with my nose. When I talk, I kind of like push my mustache up. But there's been a lot of talk of, like, for example, we're going to get to this a little bit later, but like the Bears wanting to move up, or the Saints moving up because of the whole Derek Carr thing. But I definitely think it's something where we're in a position now where we can go so many directions because we have so many needs in so many areas that if we can get it, as long as we get an impact player at the position of need, I think we're going to be okay, for sure. Going to be okay. I think it's definitely possible, but it's definitely like open for discussion for sure. Yeah, Sacktown Raider Mike, what's up, baby? Yeah, only 19 likes. Come on, man. Let's like this stuff. Come on, let's do this. Let's do this. Space Beast. Thanks, Sacktown Raider Mike. 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 9, 10, 11 are real possibilities, man. For sure. For sure. And I wouldn't want to get too much further than that, but we can still get a really good player there for sure. All right. Man, we're doing good here. We're doing really good. Question number 5. Can they afford to take a defensive lineman like Mason Graham or over an offensive playmaker? I say yes. A Mason Graham on that defensive line gives you arguably the best defensive line in the NFL. It'll act like AP wanted this defensive line to act last year before everyone got hurt. And what does that do for the defense? Well, it occupies more blockers to allow your very knowledgeable, experienced, and fast linebackers to be able to make plays for you. That's one. It puts pressure on the quarterback, and it allows your DBs to either play that Pete Carroll cover 3 that he likes, or that that press man that he likes as well. And it's going to cause a lot of turnovers. So I'm not opposed to it. Like I said, I just want an impact player because you can never go wrong getting a player of the caliber of a Mason Graham, or the caliber of a Armand Membu, or a caliber of an Ashton Genty, or even a caliber of a Will Campbell if he's available. Like, you can't go wrong getting a guy that good. It just can't happen. I think that too often a lot of people are so married to a specific player that they lose sight of the overall picture, that a draft is not won or lost off of one specific player. Even if you don't get even if you bust out in the first round, you can still have a really good draft that, you don't want to do it every single season, but you want to take a look at the draft in its totality, because you can really, even though I did take a look back at last year's draft, you really have to give it a couple of seasons to look back on the draft to see how effective that draft was. I would say maybe 2 to 3 years for sure. But I like the names that we're throwing out right now. But Mason Graham is definitely a guy that I want to be mad at it. Dude, Mason Graham, dude, like, When I watch Mason Graham tape, I see a wrecking ball. You know, he didn't have a ton of sacks. He didn't have a ton of sacks in his college career, but dude, he was just killing game plans. Like quarterbacks were not comfortable playing against Mason Graham. He right here, the way he knifes through and the way he's hard to block, he reminds me a lot of Warren Sapp. He really does. Okay, next up. This is a question that really isn't asked all that often, and I think it's something that we really should talk about. Question is, the Adams trade left the void. Can a rookie wide receiver or a later round gem fill it? Short answer is no. Okay. I don't see anybody in this draft class that can fill the shoes of a Davante Adams. Now, just take a step back, okay? Production over talent. Production over talent. You can be the most talented player in the world. If for whatever reason, one reason or the other, you don't produce on the field, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You can have an injury history, right? You can't get on the field, or you can be a disciplinary issue. You could be a locker room issue like Davante Adams was. Doesn't help us. He didn't help us last year. As good as he is as a football player, he did not help us not one bit last season for his selfish acts. That's just a bare fact. So, can somebody fill the player he was last season for us? Possibly, yes. But can they fill overall his shoes? I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone in this class as good as Davante Adams as far as the wide receivers go. Even like a Tet McMillan or any of these guys. I think Luther Burden could be close because of his after the catch ability, but his route running and stuff is nowhere near. No one's near where Davante Adams has been in his career. So I really don't think there's anyone available for us that can fill the void. As far as someone who can go out there and make this offense better than it was last season, even if Davante Adams was there because of how poorly he played, yes, I think that's possible. Wait a second. Who said no one was talking about Jalen Walker? I talked about Jalen Walker like a couple of freaking videos ago, a couple of lives ago. I said he's a freaking stud, and I wouldn't mind having him. I think he's a freaking stud. Greg Lira, yes, Jaden Higgins can be as good as Adams. Anybody in this draft class couldn't be as good, because we don't know the future. But if you take a look at their skills now and where they are, I don't think that anyone has the skill set of a Davante Adams right now. I don't think anyone projects to be that. But yes, it's definitely a possibility. I just don't see it. All right. Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 7. This is a good one too. This is one that we kind of talked about a little bit, but definitely something that we need to talk about a little bit more. Man, Big Lyric, get out of here. All right, what do we got going here? With Jack Jones released, is a top-tier cornerback a priority to bolster the secondary? I don't know if this is necessarily a priority, but it's definitely something that needs to happen. Also, kind of like the trade back factor. If we trade back to 9, 10, 11, it's possible we can get an excellent corner in one of those picks. If that happens, I'd be pumped, because not only are we going to get more draft capital, we're still getting a pretty high elite trait player in this draft. So yeah, Jack Jones, it is what it is, man. Jack Jones is gone, and I think we have Jacorian Bennett, we have Stokes, we have Sam Webb, we have DeCam Richardson. Devonshire is a guy that we drafted last year late. So we have guys that play the outside. Those are all outside corners. We need somebody for the slot. We need some guy that can do that. Now, yes, Isaiah Polamalu played the slot. Lonnie Johnson played the slot. Jeremy Chin played the slot. But you don't want to rely on your safeties to be your primary slot corners. You really want to get a slot corner. So a lot of these guys can play the slot, which is good. Good questions. Good questions. All right, number 8. I think this is something that we've all been thinking, definitely. In his first year, will Spytek lean towards best player available, need, or a specific archetype? I think it's going to definitely be an archetype. I think they're going to put together their draft board based on who they feel is going to make the biggest impact on their team. And it's not necessarily BPA necessarily. It's not necessarily, oh, we have a need, we need to fill these needs. It's basically the type of player that they are. Because it doesn't matter at this point, at this juncture, we're not 1 or 2 players away from being a title contender. Now, I'm not saying that we can't do it, but a lot of things have to go right. So when you're at this point, you're bringing in a Pete Carroll and you're trying to instill this new culture because, look, we're all adults here, okay, right? We're all adults. We can talk freely here. How you build a culture is by winning. That's how you build a culture, okay? Look what happened last year with AP. He came in with an attitude, but the culture was a losing culture because we were losing. We got 10 games in a row, okay? That's not a winning culture. So you build a culture by winning. Now, once you win, you look back on how you got there, and that's what builds your culture. So how do you win? You got better players. We already have better coaches. Our head coach, our offensive coordinator are better than we had last season. We have a better quarterback. Running back's better. Defensive line's healthy coming back. They're going to be better. So that culture is going to change by winning, and you get that by getting good players. Space Beast, what's going on here? It would be great to ask Ramsey. Come on, bruh. Caught Space Beast slipping. All right. Question 9. It's another good one. With needs at corner and safety, how deep into the draft will they wait to reinforce it? I don't think very deep. I think probably the first 2 rounds. I think there's some really good players that'll be available in the first 2 rounds. A lot of good corners, a lot of secondary help available the first couple rounds. And the cool thing is like we can sit back and be like, yo, they drafted all offensive players the first 3-4 rounds. And we're like, oh, well, there goes that, right? It's just, we just don't know, man. This draft is so funky. And I think this draft more than most, we're going to see that a lot of teams have their big board that's so far off from one another. Just because there's so many players that are kind of mixed into that, maybe like I said, 11 to 80 range. It just feeds into a lot of just variation in opinion. All righty. Last question. How will free agency moves affect draft strategy? I think that's pretty obvious. I think that there's not as big a need, if any, at quarterback. I think we solidified that. I think we did a lot to solidify the back end of our secondary at safety. I think a linebacker is pretty solid. We can always use a guy here and there, but there's a few places, that we still need some upgrading on. But I think we did a lot of work in free agency to improve while not breaking the bank. That's very important. Get some water. So the free agency moves that we've made so far, if you haven't watched it, there's a video I just made about a kind of a report card for free agency moves pre-draft. And I think there's only two areas where we did not improve: wide receiver and corner, just because we lost two starters, you know. But other than that, I think we did pretty good. All right. Let's see what you guys are talking about in this thing. Kevin Lurker, we just started, baby. We just started. We're good. You're good. Just Raiders, baby. What's up? What's up, baby? How we doing? How's it going? Frank Weber, free agency has given us the leverage and luxury of drafting for talent or trading back. A lot of good stuff, man. The free agency moves that we've made have allowed us to be more flexible while still addressing needs. So we don't have a dire need at running back. If we don't get one in the first round, it's not gonna be like, oh my god, we're gonna be terrible at running back again. Like, no, we have a really good running back now. We need more, of course. We got a little bit of help in the interior offensive line. I always said that I felt that we should have gotten at least one more guy just to kind of solidify it a little bit better. But I mean, that's where the late end of the draft. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good linemen available for sure. All right. I love the guy. You love the guy. All of Raider Nation loves this guy, Hunter Renfrow. Now, a few weeks back, Hunter Renfrow made a visit to, actually, he visited the Carolina Panthers first. He's from South Carolina. So he visited with the Panthers, kicked the tires a little bit, left without a deal, went and visit the Raiders. Same deal. I don't know if there was any reports out if Hunter Renfrow actually worked out for the Raiders or just met with the Raiders. But one of my favorites, one of my favorite writers, it's just Vic Tafur from The Athletic is one of my favorite writers. Whenever you see anything from Vic Tafur out there and Tashawn Reed, all those guys, you just read it because they're really good. And I've actually had Vic Tafur on my other show a few times. I'm see if I want to get him on this one, but he's been on my show a few times. He's a great guy, and I really love his stuff. He said that he doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And I hate saying that just because I really want I think there's a possibility that Hunter Renfrow can really carve himself out a niche here. But there's a few things we got to think about here. A couple things here. Now, he had that great season, 103 catches, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. That was 4 years ago. Okay. He's had several injuries since. I personally think he's had quite a few undiagnosed concussions because of how he got absolutely just annihilated on punt returns. I think once he was able to show the fact that he was a standout receiver or could be a standout receiver, there was no reason for him to return punts anymore, and he still was doing it. I don't think if Renfrow were to come back at 29 years old, he's going to be returning punts anymore. So that really kind of, if you're going to be a backup at receiver or a backup linebacker or a backup safety or a backup running back, you better play special teams. And it doesn't seem like Hunter Renfrow is going to play special teams, especially with that concussion history that he's had. And it's a real bummer because I know that Vic Tafur knows his stuff. And it said a lot without anything being said that Hunter Renfrow went the entire season last season unsigned. And it says a lot of things. And just take your pick because either one of these is equally as likely. Either teams felt like Hunter Renfrow's play dropped so much that they didn't want to bring him in. There's that. There's the injury history where they didn't want to bring him in because they felt like he wasn't the way he's built, his stature is not conducive to taking more hits in the NFL. Another is they felt like his versatility wasn't there because of his lack of playing special teams in the future. That's another one. Or it could have been all Renfrow's idea. He said, look, I'm not healthy. I need to get healthy. I need to come back healthy. So I'm going to sit out a year. And it could have been his idea. Or it could have been like a combination of the two, where he wasn't signed for a certain period of time. And then afterward, he's just like, yeah, maybe I'll just sit this year out. It's been a long time and I don't have a lot of knocks on my door. Either way, it says a lot to the comeback of Hunter Renfrow that he wasn't even given a flyer last season. Like there's some guys out there, they're like, dude, this dude's still in the freaking league. And Hunter Renfrow is a guy that is a good teammate. He's smart. He's got a really high football IQ. If a team was going to get a veteran presence in their locker room, Hunter Renfrow would be an excellent veteran presence. Unfortunately, no one took a chance on him last year. No one's taking a chance on him this year. Hell, people were already saying that he was retired. He had to come back and say, no, he's not retired. He wants to play again. So ultimately, Vic Tafur says that although there is a need at wide receiver, just of his injury history, his age, his declining skill set, his lack of special teams play, and his injury history, probability moving forward is really going to hinder the fact that, it's not completely out of the cards yet because anything is possible, but he doesn't see it happening for Hunter Renfrow to re-sign with the Raiders. And that's kind of a shame. I would be kind of on board with it. Rick Rock. Hunter needed a vacation from the NFL. His body took too many big hits and too many concussions. Yeah, man, that's for sure. He definitely needed it. But ultimately, when you get back and you're 5'10", 180, slight frame with concussion issues, and you're not really fast, and you're quick but not fast, I don't know, man. That's a bummer. That's a bummer for sure. All right. Last but not least, I want to get to 3 potential draft day trades. This is an article on Bleacher Report, and I pieced together a couple of things that I've heard, plus some stuff that's just logically probable. It's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to trade back, okay? But we have to be prepared for it. And there's 3 options that I'm going to give you right now. Now, I teased a little bit earlier about the possibility of trading back to, actually, was it pick 10 with the Bears? Kevin Lurker. I'm all sad now. Yeah, man, I get it, dude. But let's just remember Hunter Renfrow for what he gave us, because ultimately, I don't believe that version of Hunter Renfrow is ever coming back. It's just been too many years, man. It's 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago, after all this injury history and stuff. I could be dead wrong. He can come back and be the same guy that he was in 2021, but I don't know. Okay, back to the trades. So we talked a little bit about the Bears, right? The Bears are said to want to move up. It's said that Ben Johnson is completely enamored, like head over heels in love with Ashton Genty, even more so than Raider Nation, if you can believe that. Also, there's a player on the Bears roster that Ben Johnson traded away as soon as he became an offensive coordinator. That's DeAndre Swift, running back. He was an offensive assistant with the Detroit Lions, and as soon as he became a coordinator, he shipped off DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles and promptly gained 1,000 yards. Well, lo and behold, Ben Johnson takes over the Bears, and who is one of his running backs but DeAndre Swift? So, the proposed trade is the Raiders trade their first-round pick, number 6 overall, to the Bears for their first-round pick, number 10 overall, a third-round pick, number 72 overall, and DeAndre Swift. That is the proposed deal. Basically, Ben Johnson already traded away, DeAndre Swift once. He didn't feel like he fit his system or he was a good fit overall, so he traded him. Why would he want him at a different location? I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense as far as that goes. Also, I mean, ESPN's Matt Miller. Well, I like Matt Miller too. Matt Miller said he was the one reporting on how much the Bears really loved Ashton Jeanty and would trade up to get him. I think we can actually squeeze a little bit more out of the Bears, but whatever. Also, it would be a pretty good upgrade in the backfield. Even if we did draft a young running back, DeAndre Swift, a rookie running back, Raheem Mostert. I mean, these are guys that are dynamic. These are guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield, who are tough runners inside and out. I think it'll be a good deal for us to be able to have that type of flexibility in our running back room for sure. Also, the added draft capital is nice. Spytek's always said how he loves his draft picks. So only going back 4 spots, picking up a legit running back, and also picking up another pick in the 3rd round. Yeah, man. Frank Weber, Swift can't be better than Jeanty. No, I'm not saying he's better than Jeanty. But what are you taking? If you can still get, let's say you still get a good offensive lineman in the 1st round and get a good running back in the 2nd round, is the better offensive lineman and the running 2nd round running back going to be a better combination than the offensive line we have now in Jeanty? The running game, Frank. I'm not picking on you at all. I think you always make really good points, but we need to remember the running game is not just the running back. Okay, it's the offensive line, it's the coaching, and it's the running back. So I do like the coach that we have for the offense. We just need to get a better. We need to get a better offensive line, and I think with that better offensive line, we can have a similar production or maybe even better with the running back we get later. Possible. Man, I need to freaking trim this freaking mustache. It's bugging me. But yeah, look, am I saying yes or no? No, I'm not saying that at all. Are there some things that I really love about Ashton Jeanty? Yes, of course. His balance, his speed, his explosion, his acceleration, his change of direction, his balance, his ability to break tackles, like all this stuff is just elite tier. But he had 400 touches in 14 games last year, guys. Normally, when a running back has that many touches, look at Josh Jacobs. When he had a ton of touches, the next year, then the year after was, whoa, all right, a ton of touches. The next year, that's normally what you see. Not every running back out there is Derrick Henry, who you can just feed the ball over and over year after year after year, and he's fine. At 5'8", 215, I don't know that he's going to be a guy that can take 400 touches a season in only 14 games and then be that good or better the next season. You got to think about that too, man. He had 400 touches last year, 397 touches, man. That's a ton. That's a ton of touches. That's more than what your uncle touched you. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, next trade. The traders. Well, there are trading, so I guess they are traders. The Raiders trade tight end Michael Mayer and a 6th round pick number 180 to the Titans for a 5th round pick number 141. Now, that's not my trade. That's just from Bleacher Report, okay? Look, Bowers pretty much made Mayer expendable. Unless you want to run a lot of heavy 2 tight end sets, Michael Mayer is going to be a backup tight end. He was a 2nd round pick. We traded up to get him. He just never materialized to the guy that we thought he was going to be. Now, can he be much better than he's shown? Yes. I think that the Josh McDaniels offense was just straight dookie, and it was nothing nice, and definitely did not do Michael Mayer any favors, and he really blossomed afterwards. Last season, he had his little episode where he, left the team for a while, got his head straight, came back, and he had some good moments, but ultimately he hasn't shown enough to be able to say, yeah, I trust this dude to be a big time contributor to my team. It's hard. I don't want to give up on the guy, but if you can get back, you know, a 5th round pick, hell, we can get a quarterback with that 5th round pick. Also, Vinny Bonsignore from the Las Vegas Review Journal said that the Raiders are actively looking to trade Mayer. And there's a lot of people who are interested. Now, I think it's a really smart idea for the Raiders to hang on to Mayer until the actual draft day, where they can maybe make some, bigger wheels and deals, right? So I think this would be a good thing for us. There's a couple landing spots that would be pretty good for Michael Mayer. And I mean, look, Dave Ziegler, he was the GM with the Raiders when we drafted Michael Mayer. He is the assistant GM in Tennessee right now. So I can see that being a possibility for sure. And it's definitely possible for us to trade him to a GM who actually really believed in him enough to trade up in the 2nd round to grab him. I mean, between you and me, I really do think that Dave Ziegler wanted Sam Laporta. And after he got drafted, the very next pick we traded for, and we got Michael Mayer at the next one. All righty. I mean, look, Brian Callahan's going to, he has the history of running a lot of 2 tight end sets. So for sure, it's a possibility. Brian Callahan is the head coach of Tennessee Titans. He would definitely see more targets too out there because, I mean, Brock Bowers is going to eat up so many targets. It's ridiculous. Okay, last trade. And don't kill me, okay? I am just reporting what I've read. All right? Okay. The 3rd trade that the Raiders could possibly make during the draft is backup quarterback Aidan O'Connell to the New Orleans Saints. Look, it'd be pretty crazy, okay? It'd be pretty crazy if, because of what's happening in New Orleans and, the whole thing going on with the shoulder of the quarterback currently, if they're like, man, we don't think the guys we have are it, and we're not going to be able to trade up to get a guy that we want. How about we just trade for a guy that's, started 20 plus games? Possible. Now, the proposed trade is Aidan O'Connell to the New Orleans Saints for a 4th round pick, number 131. We've drafted him in the 4th round. We get a 4th round pick back. Same. Okay. Vic Taffer, like I told you, one of my favorites from The Athletic, said that he says that the Raiders might trade O'Connell during the draft weekend, and that he wouldn't be surprised if Aidan O'Connell is already being dangled out there just as a teaser, a little appetizer teaser for these teams to be like, man, if we don't get the quarterback that we're looking for and we have a higher grade on Aidan O'Connell than these guys that are left, we might as well just take that guy and give up a draft pick there. Is it possible? Sure. Aidan O'Connell really is around the league. I understand a lot of people in Raider Nation feel that Aidan O'Connell can start for our team. But I'm going to tell you how Aidan O'Connell is viewed across the league. He's viewed as a high-end backup quarterback. That's how he's viewed. Not even a starter or a bridge, like a high-end backup guy, a guy that can spot start for you and be a good backup. Okay, that's how he's viewed. So what is that worth? I think that's worth a 4th round pick. And now, with Geno Smith being traded to us now, it's a luxury that we don't really need. We really should, and like I was saying earlier in the previous segment, we really should get a quarterback that has similar traits to a Geno Smith, more mobile, bigger arm, stuff like that, who can run Chip Kelly's offense, because ultimately the worst case scenario is you get Geno Smith hurt, and then you bring in Aidan O'Connell, who has a completely different skill set, and you're running basically a completely different offense, because you can't run the same stuff with Aidan O'Connell that you ran with Geno Smith. It's just not, they have very different skill sets. I mean, also look, the Raiders are set to probably draft a quarterback in this draft coming up. More often than not, it's just, I mean, more probable than not, it's going to be a quarterback that has some mobility, or like a Will Howard, a guy who's already played in Chip Kelly's offense, and a guy that Chip Kelly feels comfortable with. One or the other, either one. Also, it's better for Aidan O'Connell, man. Aidan O'Connell, just get a fresh coat of paint on the guy, send him somewhere where he's going to be able to get some snaps, somewhere where he can, just build a new, because he had his chance with the Raiders. Unfortunately, he didn't make it happen. He didn't show enough with a chance he was given. And I talked about this in the past. There was two players who weren't playing, even though they were better than the players that were playing ahead of them. One on offense and one on defense that I can point to right away. First is Aidan O'Connell. Aidan O'Connell is better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we can all agree on that. Aidan O'Connell is better than Gardner Minshew. I guess we can all agree on that. Malcolm Kuntz was better than Carl Nassib. He was better than Chandler Jones. He was better than Tyree Wilson. He was better than all those guys. But they were all getting snaps over him because either they were big-time free agent signings or they were high draft picks. But the difference between the two is when Malcolm Kuntz got on the field at the end of 2023, he left no doubt that he should be the starter. There was no doubt. There was no, well, Malcolm Kuntz has to battle it out with Tyree Wilson next season no. Malcolm Kuntz was the guy opposite Maxx Crosby on the defensive line. And look, Aidan O'Connell had his shot in the preseason last year, and he didn't do enough. He didn't do enough to convince everybody on the team that he should be the starter. Should he have been from the beginning? Sure. But ultimately, she didn't show enough. All righty. All right, guys. That's it for today. What do you guys got for me here, man? What do you guys got for me? Space Beast. I don't know that we'd be able to trade him for a third. He hasn't showed hardly anything. If Tyree Wilson was smart, I would gain 20, 30 pounds and be a defensive tackle. Because I don't think he has what it takes to be a defensive end, unfortunately, an edge rusher. Felix Savella. My sentiments exactly. Luther Burden in the open field, bubble screens, inside screens, jet sweeps. Yes, please. Yes, please. That would be amazing. I would love that. Oh, but in case I didn't mention it, super chats are open, guys. What else we got here? Space Beast, isn't it weird? Raiders have a quarterback and teams like Jets, Giants, Steelers have duds or nothing. It feels good. It definitely changes the draft when you have a quarterback. For sure. It does change your draft. And I, for one, am very appreciative to have a quarterback that we can count on, I think. Rick Rock. Aidan O'Connell needs to strengthen his legs and tighten up his quickness and speed to improve those weaknesses. Bro, he's 27 years old, man. That's another thing that we're not taking into account. He was an old rookie. Like, he played for 6 years in college. He was an old rookie, man. There's only so much you can do. Like, I'm just under 6 feet, about 265, 270. Now I'm bricked up. But I'm not going to dunk a basketball. I mean, when I was younger, I was able to grab the rim when I was younger. I did it a couple times, but I'm never I was built too thick to be a guy that can run and jump and all that stuff. That's just not in the cards for me. It's just not in the cards for Aidan O'Connell to do that. It just isn't. Henry Stanbridge, man. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it, man. I appreciate your lives, brother. Keep it going. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. If you have a question or anything, just shoot it on out. We'll make sure we get it addressed. Okay. Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, you know what? That's my hour. I appreciate you guys very much. I want to make sure everyone, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support. It's absolutely free to do. And it's the bare minimum you can do to support this channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video, which I do appreciate. Guys, it takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, like this video. It really helps out a lot. Share it to your socials. Go ahead and click that share button. Share it to all the socials you have. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, I don't care, whatever you guys are on, just share it and be like, check this out, guys, because I think Raider Nation needs to come together. I think this is going to be a good spot for us in Raider Nation to come together and just kind of talk. I know there's a lot of guys out there that make a lot of good content. I know Waste is a guy that really helped me out a lot. He's a really good dude. I really like his content a lot. There's Pharaoh out there who's a really good dude. I was on his show for a little bit, Sanjeet, like I talked about. A lot of good content creators out there, guys, but I think that this could be a community for us to get together and really just talk everything out. We don't always have to agree. Not everyone is like what's his face yesterday or the other day who said he was going to delete me because I didn't agree with him on Derek Carr. It doesn't matter. I want to make sure here everybody can come together in their fandom for Raider Nation, and we can disagree, and that's fine. But we disagree behind these closed doors. Behind this closed door right now, where we're meeting right now live, that's where we can disagree. Because once we go out into the world, it's us against everybody else. And that's the way we like it, baby. All right, man. That's my time for tonight. Till next time, everybody. Peace.